Hello, rodeo fans, and welcome to episode 12 of the Short Round, the official podcast of the Canadian Professional Rodeo Association. I'm your host, Wacey Anderson, and I'm once again joined by my co-host, Clay Creasy. Clay, how's it going, man? We finally got some rodeos in the books and some stuff happening on the north side of the border with four rodeos in the last 2 weeks, kind of coming to an end, but getting kind of things started for 2024.
For sure. Yeah. No, I know with the weather that a lot of this province is experiencing right now, it's a good thing all those rodeos were indoors, but there was definitely a lot of action happening inside with those. So it's kind of nice to have some rodeo results and things happening to talk about. So
Well, it's crazy you mentioned the weather. It's funny you can't really rule out snow or any type of crazy weather happening at a Canadian rodeo until probably what, Ponoka maybe, but I wouldn't even rule out Ponoka at that point. Like it's I've seen snow happen in the middle of June or close to July up here in Canada, and I mean, yeah, it's gotten. I mean, we're through winter number 8 now, I think, in Alberta for you guys. So yeah, it's good that these first few rodeos are indoors.
yeah, I don't know what the weather's trying to accomplish out there, but it's just making sure that it's not very nice. I know I had to cancel a baseball practice last night at 5 o'clock because it started raining 15 minutes before that.
Man.
But yeah, I can remember rodeo and in Bonnyville the one year in the snow and in beginning of June and Wildwood getting on at the end of the one perf and it rained the whole way through and then started snowing just before I got on and I think there was still snow on the ground the next morning. And yeah,
It's
it's
it's one of
it's
those
a
things being like,
Canadian.
yeah, being like from an agriculture family and obviously a lot of people in rodeo rooted in it. Like we love the spring moisture, especially after the dry winter we've had, but it's also one of those things like, why is it goddamn snowing after we've been teased with such nice weather? So hopefully things shape up, but we're also thankful for the moisture, so we can't really complain too much.
No, for sure. I got hayland around me or for myself and surrounded by grain farmers and I wouldn't mind if I heard them complaining about how hard it was to get into the field because that would mean we actually got some moisture in the soil. Even when it started raining yesterday morning, I went and kicked the ground and I was still kicking up dust. So
Oh man. Well,
it's dry.
hopefully it keeps on coming and we're in good shape come seating time, I guess. But like I said at the top of the show, we had four rodeos in the last couple of weeks and some people kind of emerged as I would say like front runners or maybe some favorites when it comes to the Canadian Championship race. One of those people being Taylor Manning. She's off to a blazing start. She's won three out of the first four rodeos. She's no stranger, I guess, to this position, but she picked up right where she left off at the Maple Leaf Circuit Finals and just seems to be on a mission to pick up another Canadian championship.
Yeah, she's just always been so consistent. I mean, she's got rodeo in her blood. Her dad Jay was a Canadian champion bull rider. Her mom Shelley. They've just brought those kids up in the right way and helped them really learn how to rodeo right. And she just yeah, she's knocking it out of the park. I mean, there's just sometimes those people that hit the ground running and I mean it seems like they're uncatchable. I know we get some of those big rodeos in the middle of the summer that can really shake things up, but it never hurts to have those couple of wins under your belt to start it early and really get people worrying that they can't catch you.
Well, and that's the thing too with these big rodeos coming, like you say, someone who's kind of on a bit of a hot streak or whatever can really distance themselves and make up some ground in the standings. Like once Grand Prairie and Buffalo Lake and these SMS Pro Tour rodeos start happening, like if you're on a heater and you're winning those, like you're just further and further pushing yourself away from the rest of the pack and making it tough for them to catch you. So it's exciting to watch.
For sure. No, it's not to take anything away from these first ones. Again, these ones, the
100%.
lessons you learn here, like you say, help you so that you win one or two of these and then you win one of those bigger ones and boy, you really set yourself ahead of the field. So
Well, and it's one of those things too where we're like you say, not taking away from these smaller rodeos because every dollar counts. It's so essential in getting into that top 12. And another person who can kind of relate to that is Clay Elliott. He's a former Canadian champion saddle bronc rider. He's moved on to the tie down roping now after some injury troubles, but he just barely missed the 2023 CFR in the tie down roping, and he's got three checks to start the year. And he's going to be a guy who I would keep an eye on to be in the top 12 come the first week of October in Edmonton.
For sure. Clay's always been such a handy guy, and he'd pull that rope out every now and then when he was riding broncs
Yeah, yeah.
primarily back in the day, and usually do all right. And I know it's just such a shame he never got a chance to take a run at those Kenny McLean awards and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, because I know he definitely could have done that. Obviously, you can see where he's at when he's putting his
100%.
mind to the calf roping and everything. And I know that was a big part. Him and his brother Ty were tremendous all around hands in high school
Mm-hmm.
rodeo, college rodeo, and yeah, every dollar counts. You don't want to leave it to the end of the year for sure. And if you can bank those dollars at these rodeos to begin the year, that's found money come September now, because that's the end of our season. Or I guess
Definitely.
no, it's not even the end of September. It's the
Pretty
end
much
of
pretty
August.
yeah, pretty much. Like there's a couple trail offs, so like Hannah and Olds and those last few rodeos. But yeah, basically middle September, it's done. So you got to make some moves and make sure you're chipping away as much as you can, and like getting a check here and there is really going to make a bit difference for people battling for those bottom few spots. And like you mentioned, Clay's got that mindset of a champion. He knows what it takes to win, and I think no matter what event he competes in, he's going to figure it out and be tough to beat. So I'm really stoked to watch Clay throughout the rest of the season, see what he can do in the tie down roping. Another guy we need to look out for, I think, Clay is Dawson Dom. He's one of those guys. He kind of found his way, I would say, in 2023. Made some really outstanding rides at some of the bigger events throughout the summer, and I just think where he's poised to further that breakout season he had in 2023, and really kind of show that he's here and he's here to compete and be one of those guys that's looking for a Canadian title.
For sure. Dawson just rides so well. He
Mm-hmm.
really stays under his reins so well. He controls that upper body. And I mean, you do that and it sets up your ride so well. And it's really hard to find a horse that he can't make look a good ride on.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
going to make pretty much everything look good. And again, we're seeing him off to a great start here. He's got wins in Medicine Hat and Tabor these last 2 weekends. And again, combining that with, I think, a pretty good showing at the Maple Leaf
Mm-hmm.
Circuit Finals, and he's well ahead of the pack. And I mean, he's another one of those guys that you hope carries that on down south and ends up going to both finals here this fall and winter. So
Yeah, I mean he's one of those guys too that like if he gets on a roll and starts winning, he can put himself ahead of the pack too. Like that's the level of talent we got in Canada, especially in the saddle bronc riding. Like you, any of these guys. You look at Ben Anderson last year; he went on a huge run, and I mean, ultimately he got caught by Zeke. But that's just Zeke's going to be a threat no matter what. But I mean, we have such great talent, especially in that event, and yeah, like with these big rodeos coming and chipping away and getting these checks early on in the year, like a guy like Dawson, if he gets on a heater, we could see him holding on to that number one spot for the majority of the season.
for sure. And the bronc riding's even trickier for a lot of those guys, because there's some big money bronc ridings throughout the season that
Mm-hmm.
really can sway the standings for the CFR up here and the NFR down south as well. So yeah, again, every dollar counts, and you just want to ride every horse the best you can to make sure you get every check that you should.
It's crazy. I think we got four events now, four settlement riding events now on the CPRA schedule with that pay. I think they all pay over 20,000 in the pot. So I mean, like you say, there's going to be some. I think we're obviously going to see the earnings record smash in the saddle bronc riding this year. But with between Weyburn, Stettler, Wildwood, and obviously the Hardgrass, it's going to be some great bronc riding matches this year. And I think I don't know if it's going to be bold of me to say, but the world record might be in jeopardy at some of these bronc matches with the caliber of guys and the caliber of horses that'll be bumping around.
Yeah, for sure. You watch some of those, and I mean, those guys, once they get up against each other and you get those really good horses under you, I mean, it's definitely it brings the best out of those guys, and it's always great to watch. I know there's also that bronc riding in Gleason that the Northcott Ewells and Motzes and them put on together too. So yeah, there's a bunch of those, and I hope I can get out to some of them this year. I don't get out to as many events as I'd like to, but those are a few that are on the list for sure to go and hopefully get to just hang out and watch those guys.
Oh man, it's awesome. It's for me like especially like, as being a former bull rider, and that's kind of where my heart is. But since my work in the industry, I've fallen in love with the saddle mark riding, and it's so fun to watch. There's nothing like watching a really, really good bear or saddle mark ride, sorry, and it be a high score. And we're so fortunate with the horsepower we got and the manpower we got in the event. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, if you're in the area of one of those events coming up this summer, head on over to the Pro Rodeo Canada website and check the schedule. But they're definitely worth the price of admission to go check out. Another pair we need to talk about, I guess, is Brady Tryon and Calgary Smith, the reigning Canadian champion team ropers, kind of threw the gauntlet down this past weekend in Tabor and Canada, or Tabor and Coleman, being like, "Hey, we're here to stay and we're not going anywhere." And they won both those rodeos, and they just again really showed that they were the champions for a reason last year.
For sure. And it kind of goes to show you that they're taking this Canadian circuit seriously, because who else would be up in Coleman and Tabor instead of down in California for rodeo in the PRCA? So that just goes to show you that I think they really enjoyed their time up here last year, and they're trying to, must have looked at their schedule and figured out that, yeah, it doesn't hurt to again bank some dollars here now and get that going. They roped so well at the CFR. I know that that Friday night round last year, the team rope,
Oh
and
man.
it was just unreal, and just, I mean, they didn't hold back, right? They
Yeah.
they didn't get to the end and say, oh, we got this if we just make a good run. Like they are going for it, and yeah, it's they're just picking up where they left off in Red Deer last year again, and yeah, I foresee them having another big year here. So
Yeah, I just love their approach to it, man. They are always gunning for first and not afraid to shy away and push the limit and push the barrier, and they always seem to rise to the occasion, which has been really fun to watch. And I love the way they rope. And we actually have Calgary Smith, the Canadian champion healer, as our guest this week on the podcast. And it was a really fun conversation with him, just kind of hear his story and how he kind of, it took him a while to get the confidence that we see him have now. And it was really cool to kind of pick his brain and talk about that stuff. But yeah, they're ones to watch, and it's going to be really exciting watching them throughout the summer at some of these big rodeos. But anyways, it's a good time right now, Clay, I think, to throw it to our interview, and we'll catch up with Calgary Smith, and we'll catch up with the rest of you right after this. This has been episode 12 of the Short Round Podcast. Welcome back to the Short Round. I'm super stoked to introduce our next guest, along with his partner Brady Tryon. This fella has been tearing up the team roping scene in Canada and is the reigning Canadian champion healer. Welcome to the show, Calgary Smith. Thanks for doing this, man.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. I didn't really know much about you guys kind of throughout last year, and then you guys kind of first caught my eye in Armstrong. You guys, the heel shot you guys made, I think it was in the main rodeo, but the heel shot you made was like one of the most badass heel shots I've ever seen. So it was cool to see you guys finish off the year strong and then ultimately walk away with the championship.
Yeah, that was fun last year. I've never been up there, and so to have that much success the first time was fun to do.
So how's the winter been going for you? What have you guys been up to? Where you been going? And yeah, how's
Oh,
things been treating you?
it's been okay. We eased around all the big winter rodeos and did all right. Nothing huge, but
Hmm.
won a little bit at almost all of them we went to, and so it was good. And then came home a little bit, went to Canada for a week, and went to Medicine Hat, Tabor, and Coleman, and now I'm home all of May, and we'll go back at the end of May for Buffalo Lake.
So are you traveling mostly from home to the Canadian rodeos, or do you kind of post up here once the summer hits, or what's the plan looking like for
Uh,
2024?
Last year I stayed in Buck Lake with Kale and Tatum Peterson, and then I rode horses with them all last summer in between rodeos. But I think this year we're going to venture off a little more,
Hmm.
and so it's going to kind of just depend where we end, where we take off from, I think.
Right on. Well, I want to jump back to the beginning before we kind of get into what's been going on in last year and this year and all that stuff. So I don't really know you all that well from what I've seen in the arena, and we've chatted a little bit on social media, but I wanna get to know you a little bit. So where'd you grow up? How'd you get your start in rodeo? Give the folks a little bit of background on your story.
I grew up in Pendleton, Oregon. I've lived here forever. My dad rode bareback horses and did stuff in rodeo, but never really, I don't know if I ever really saw him compete or do anything. And my mom, she had really nothing to do with it. Just
Hmm.
they got us into it when we were little, and it kind of stuck and we took off. I don't even think I've ever seen my mom saddle a horse before.
So how did you keep your interest going? And if it wasn't really like a family ordeal, I know like that's a big thing for a lot of rodeo people or second generation rodeo kids is like it's kind of a family affair. So what kind of kept you going and interested in it?
Uh, my parents, I mean, they did all they could for us when we were little. They took us
Hmm.
to all the junior rodeos and everything, and they kept us in it through high school and always did whatever we needed to do it if we wanted to. And I mean, they never shoved it on us, but they made sure we had everything we needed all the time if that's what we were going to do. And
Hmm.
I figured out that if I could go rope and rodeo, it would get me out of school a lot during the week, and so I really liked that, and so I would do that a lot, and I just kept doing it, and that's what I don't know if it's my calling, but I like to do it, and so that's what I do.
What led you to team roping? Was did you try any other events or was it always team roping for you?
No, I wanted to be a bull rider when I first started. I think everybody wants to.
Yeah.
And the first bull I ever got on, I broke my leg, and after that, I was like, I'm done with this, and uh, just stuck to roping after that, pretty much.
Well, and then like what point did you realize that like you can make a career out of this or you can make a living out of roping? Like was there a moment where it kind of sticks out in your mind or was it just kind of always the plan once you switched over?
Mhm. Not, I don't know. There wasn't really. I mean, just watching people and seeing how good guys can do at the finals and stuff is always. I've always thought, no
Yeah.
matter what people say, you could make a living at it if you tried and did it enough. And so once I started really kind of venturing off to more rodeos, and last year with Brady, uh, really kind of led me to think that I could do it out here and could make some money doing it. And so that's just driven me more to want to just be better and push more towards more goals.
Well, who's been some of your mentors along the way? Like I guess you say your parents didn't really compete themselves, but who were some of the people that helped you kind of get it figured out and kind of get to that next level?
Uh, Jason Stewart was one of the first guys. I roped him when I was 19 or 20 maybe,
Hmm.
and we circuit rodeoed and stuff. And he helped me a lot just going around, and he knows everybody, and so getting to rope with him kind of got my name to more people just through him. And then there's a guy up here that I think is one of the most underrated healers around. His name's BJ Roberts. Uh,
Hmm.
he's just a school teacher, but he heals outstanding, and I go to him for everything. That's who I ask. That's who I talk to about what I need, misses or catches. I send him every video, and he helps him break it down. And he's been huge for me.
So would he be kind of the one that's influenced maybe your style? Like I'm always fascinated in the team roping with there's so many different ways to get it done, I find, and every guy has a little different that makes it work. And like I said earlier, watching you, I just love the way you approach it. You're really aggressive and you don't waste any time in it, and it looks really nice. So how have you developed that style and was some of those influences a big part of that, or is it just something that's kind of worked for you over the years?
No, it's just something I've kind of learned how to do. BJ's the exact opposite of me. He will take a couple swings over him, but he will not miss. He will catch
Hmm.
every single one by 2 feet. And I kind of live or die by going fast. And I think I just learned that from riding slow horses all the time when I was young. And when you got there, you had to take your shot because that might be the only one you get. And so that's how I've learned to rope heading or heeling. And so that's just the way I've done it since I started, really.
So another thing I want to get to the bottom to, I think a lot of people are wondering this as well, especially being up in Canada here. Like, how did you get the name Calgary? I think it's kind of it's really unique and it's kind of cool. Like, obviously, with how big the Calgary Stampede is up here in Canada, but yeah, where'd the name come from? And yeah, how'd that come about?
So me, my dad, and my brother, we all have the same initials. And so when I was about to be born or whatever, my parents wanted all of us to have the same initials. So they were thinking of something, and actually, the guy that ended up being my first grade teacher, my mom was teaching with him, and he came up with the name. He goes, "What about Calgary?" And my mom went home and told my dad, and it stuck.
And here we are today.
So there's no real cool story. Yeah. Now I go by Gary half the time. Everybody calls me Gary now. So
Perfect. So then you kind of make your way up the ranks and you're roping, and how did you get connected with Brady? Did you guys just grow up together, or did he reach out to you, reach out to him? How did that come along? I'm always fascinated to hear about the how team roping pairs come to be.
um, I don't really know exactly how uh, we first got connected. He married a girl, Callahan, from over kind of where I live, and so he was over here for a open rodeo or something. I can't really remember. We're just over here hanging
Mm,
out, and we got hooked up there. And he needed a partner, and I needed one. It just kind of worked out, and I think I missed them both. I didn't catch any for him. And then a couple years later, we roped at the big Wrangler finals his dad puts on in Billings,
mhm,
and won the big open there, and that was kind of the first big open I won. And since that open rodeo, probably 6 or 7 years ago, we always just kind of texted and stayed in touch, but nothing really of it. And then last year, he mentioned that he wanted to go to Canada one more time and try to make the finals before he was done. And I was like, well, I don't really got nothing going on. I was like, that'd be sweet to try to do. And then it went way better than we could have planned.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to kind of have the success you guys did your first year up here, and it's and I mean being in Pendleton, it's really there's really not that tough travel into a lot of the rodeos up here, like especially if you have a place to kind of hunker down for a little bit, eh?
Yeah, no, it was easy for me because I mean, Buck Lake's dead center of everything, and the farthest
Hmm.
I had to go 4 hours probably, and it felt like just being at home and going to the amateur rodeos. Like you go home on the week, you get to be home Sunday and hang
Yeah.
out, and then leave again Thursday, and you never really have to stay. And last year it was nice getting somewhere to go because I didn't have a living quarters. I rodeoed out of a bumper pole trailer and slept in a sleeping bag. And so when I could go home, I made sure I was getting home.
Oh man, that's great. So what were some of your favorite events that you went to last year? Some of your favorite rodeos that stick out? Some you're looking forward to going back to this year? I know a lot of firsts for you probably last year, I guess, up here. And what were some of your
Yeah.
highlights on the rodeo side of things?
Uh, Pinoca, that was fun. I mean, I grew
What's
up
it?
watching Pendleton run down the lane. And so, I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't no big change really, but like different setups are always fun, I think. And so that one, uh, Wainwright, I'm excited to go back there. We had
Hmm.
luck there last year, got a pretty lucky flag in the short round there last year, and so I want to go back and try to show everybody it wasn't an accident, but uh, sometimes yeah, just got lucky there. But those two are the ones that really stick out. I think that
Hmm.
are I thought were cool rodeos.
How have you found the competition up here? I always like to ask some of the American guys who didn't grow up rodeoing here or are kind of new to the scene, like what where would you kind of how would you rate the competition, or how'd you find it your last
It
year?
is it is fast up there. It is like everybody can go so fast up there, and like that's what's just it's fun to be up there and be a part of because anybody can go 3 seconds at any time at
Hmm.
those rodeos, and so it's just you don't know who it's going to be that day, but somebody that's set up so somebody is going to be fast at every one of them, and it's fun watching because everybody's trying to do it, and then when somebody connects, it dang sure is fast.
Yeah, it's great watching. I found I think across the board too. I found like with pro rodeo up here, like the competition is like continually getting better and better and better. Like obviously our guys from Canada are getting better, and then we're getting more kind of Americans who are seeing the competition and the opportunity to win lots of money are coming up, and it's like just kind of elevating it to another level. We've seen it in the tie down roping, in the bull riding, the bareback riding, the saddle mark riding is another good example of it. Like
Hmm.
it's such a good spot Canadian rodeo right now with the amount of people kind of making it awesome.
Yeah, yeah. There's no sneaking off in Canada because every Canadian goes to every rodeo dang near,
Hmm.
and they all
Hmm.
rope so good now that I mean, you can't go to a little one and expect to just go catch one and win because I mean, somebody's going to be 4 or 5 or faster at every rodeo, so it doesn't really. I
Hmm.
mean, you got to there. It's hard to season a young horse up there because you got to be fast every time. So it's, I mean, you got to dang sure be on your best one all the time.
So obviously with the team roping, there's a lot of ups and downs and just rodeo in general. So I want to know kind of how you approach it that way. Like so much of your success rides on your partner and vice versa. So what like how do you navigate that? Like do you kind of just let it roll off your back if things aren't going well, or what, even what's it like between you and Brady? Like if things are going, if you guys aren't really catching or you have a bad run, like what's the vibe like between you guys and within yourself, trying to keep kind of looking forward?
Uh, Last year when we started, I was pretty nervous to mess up just because, I mean, roping with Brady, you don't want to mess up because when he turns them, it's going to be for money every time.
Hmm.
And I missed a couple, and I just kept saying, "Man, I'm sorry, I screwed up." And he finally just told me, he goes, "Don't say you're sorry to me." He goes, "I know you're not gonna." He goes, "I know you're not trying to miss, and I'm not gonna say sorry when I miss. So you might as well not say it either." And after that, it kind of just let me relax a little bit, and like he knows I'm trying. And I think
Hmm.
we went. I mean, the most rodeos we went to last year without winning something was maybe 3 or 4 in a row. Like we had a pretty good summer of at least catching somewhere once a week to kind of keep
Hmm.
things going. And
It's
so
it's
it was
interesting.
good.
It's interesting how something so little like that could just get the confidence going. Hey, like the momentum swings of rodeo one way or another. It's wild to me that yeah, like just your partner reassuring you that hey man, it's all good. I know you I know you're giving her, so let's just go out there and get the job done.
Yeah, and just roping with Brady has given me so much confidence to where like I know leaving for the weekend, I'm like I know we're not gonna miss every steer. We're gonna catch one somewhere, and like when we catch, it's usually fast enough to place decent. And so, like, just have that confidence now that I know we might go to 8 rodeos and he's going to turn 8 of them in a row. And
Hmm.
surely I'm not going to miss eight of them in a row. But
It,
I mean, if I do, it's there's going to be
badass.
more.
Yeah, right on. Was as you are you and Brady pretty close in age, or is he a bit older than you? I don't really know a whole lot about him.
Uh, no, he's old.
Oh, is
He's
he?
like, yeah, he's he's 9 years older than me, or
Oh,
10 maybe.
okay. So how's that been traveling with, I guess we could say, a veteran? Like how much what have you picked up on him like outside picked up from him like outside of the arena? Like how much has he helped your career on that regard?
Well, if I paid attention more, probably it'd be really good. But he enters and does everything, and I just text him and ask when we're up. I don't ever look at callbacks. I don't look at anything. So,
Just jump in their
but
egg.
yeah, well, we go by ourselves. He takes his family, and I go by myself.
Oh, okay, fair enough, fair
And
enough.
so I just text him when we're up. Or last year we had a note shared between our phones, and he would just go in there and type everything when we were up, and I just look at that. And I mean, we'd text each other randomly during the week, but I mean, we wouldn't really. We're not ones that talk every day about it or
Fair
anything. We
enough.
just kind of do our own thing, and I might not see him at the rodeo till we're warming up or something. Like we do kind of do our own thing, but then like we'll go out to eat dinner and stuff afterwards sometimes.
Sure.
But I mean, we don't just live and breathe together.
Yeah, fair enough. That's it's interesting though, because like I think maybe there's some guys out there who do that with their team up and partner or what, but it's an interesting approach that you guys don't spend a lot of time like in the practice pen together, and I'm sure you guys do, but like throughout the season, you kind of just doing your own thing, which maybe is like it works for you guys, obviously. So maybe there's something
Yeah,
to that like
and
kind of method, eh?
yeah, and I've always went with somebody. And last year I went by myself just because I didn't have a living quarters or anything, and
Hmm.
I'd get a hotel room if we had a good week, and I thought I could spoil myself a little. But
Ball out a little
like I
bit.
don't know if I ever want to go with somebody anymore. Like it's I thoroughly enjoy going by myself and getting to do what I want when I want and
Yeah. I
just
was
do
gonna
my
Yeah, that's cool, man. I was gonna ask like what that's like. I back when I was rodeo and I I'm like a really social and like to be around my buddies, like guys. So like traveling by myself, I didn't really enjoy it as much just because I mean, just to be alone with your thoughts most of the time, which is the hard part. But
yeah.
how do you keep yourself busy then when you're traveling by yourself? Do you listen to a lot of podcasts? Do you listen to music? You calling people? Like what do you do? You kind of just whatever
Uh
whatever feels right at the
yeah,
time, or
whatever. Yeah, whatever. I watch a lot of Netflix on my phone and have a magnet on my dash, and I just set my phone up there while I'm driving and watch it. Or but I just like getting to go leave when I want and do what I want. If
hmm.
I want to leave at 8 o'clock at night and drive till 2 or 3 and stop at a fairgrounds and then go the rest of the way or whatever, like I can just it's just I never have to answer to anybody else or feel like I'm on somebody else's time. It's always just my time. And so I just it's me and 2 horses and a basset hound, and That's it.
Not a bad crew. Well, and I think too, like back to like where you were staying last summer, like being within 3 or 4 hours of most of the rodeos the guy's gonna go to, like that's like really not a bad way of going about it. Like you can be there and back in a day from a rodeo.
Yeah, for sure. And like even like if you leave on Thursday, you're home Sunday, and then
Hmm.
you're home and get to sleep in a bed and have a real shower. And they Tatum and Kale always fed me dinner and did everything, and so it was awesome being there. And so that's where I stayed in between Medicine Hat and Tabor, and then I went back up there and hung
Hmm.
out with them again. So
So are you practicing during the week then, or what are you hiking busy between rodeos when you're
uh,
in the heat of it?
yeah, I practice. I've last year to stay there, I just rode horses for them, and we would ride. I mean, between there was 3 or 4 of us riding every day, and there'd be
Mm,
get 30 or yeah, probably anywhere from 20 to 30 horses rode a day, and probably 15 or 16 of them were rope horses. And so we're open all day long, start in the morning and get done at 5 or 6 at night, and just or I just heel over there usually. And so they
mhm.
put me on everything that has never been roped on to their good ones, and I get the heel on everything. And so that's helped me a lot. I think just being able to see the feet and react riding young ones well, it's also helped my horsemanship a lot.
Yeah, and a great way to stay sharp throughout the week and kind of especially like you say, if you and Brady aren't practicing together all the time, at least you guys know you're both rolling in and you're sharp and ready to rumble for the perf.
Yeah, definitely. I think Brady and I practiced maybe 3 times the other last year.
Man, I didn't even know that. That's crazy. It's awesome you guys are able to find like the mojo, I guess, that works for you guys. And I mean, everything it's different for everybody. So it's cool that you guys have been able to find that and keep the success rolling. So badass.
Sure.
I want to talk about 2023 a bit more. So you said it's your first time coming up to Canada and Brady kind of wanted to make a run at it. Was the CFR always on the radar for you? Like, was there any moments throughout the season where you're like, damn, we really got to get it going? Or was it just, you guys just knew you'd be in Red Deer come November?
No, I mean, when I left up there, I mean, that was our goal, was it the CFR. That was,
Hmm.
I mean, that's everybody's goal up there. And our first one last year was Buffalo Lake, and we won second right off the start. I'm like, all right, it's going to be all right up here, I think. And
Hmm.
then after that, we didn't do great for a little while. I mean, we won a few little checks, but nothing really big. And then once Wainwright hit, we won almost 7,000 at Wainwright, I think, and that launched it to where, I mean, we only needed a little bit more after that to
Hmm.
make it when it was that early in the year. I mean, once you have, I can't remember what we had after that, but we knew we were pretty safe to be in there. But nothing, it was just try to stay towards the top if we could.
So then you guys qualified for the CFR, obviously. Heading into round one, like what was the expectation? Like, did you guys obviously everybody goes in shooting for a Canadian title, but like realistically, what were you guys kind of shooting for heading into the first go Red Deer for the week?
Uh, my goal was just not to miss the first one. Was what I wanted. And the first round was a little softer, and we're I don't even know 4-8 or something in 1 second,
Yeah,
and that kind
yeah.
of took the monkey off our back to where it kind of got settled down. And then once I got the first one, I was just excited for the rest of the week. I had a feeling. I mean, you don't want to say you had a feeling, but I mean, after that one, it felt good. Like you're ready for the next ones and excited, and so I was ready.
Well, and the round I really want to ask about is round three. It was, in my opinion, probably one of the best rounds of team roping we've seen at the Canadian finals. You had Brady Chappell and Team McLeod bust out, tie the arena record of 3-7. And I can't remember, were you guys before Jeremy and Ren or after?
Yeah, yeah, we went before them.
Yeah, so you guys hop out. You're 3-5. You break break the arena record, and then Jeremy and Ren come out after you guys and tie the arena record. Like that was just insane. Like with that 3.5 second run. So what was going through your mind like when you see Brady and T go 3-7? Were you guys just looking at each other and being like, "F it, like let's go after this," or was it just the way things worked out? You were just be able to be that quick.
No, it just worked out. I mean, Brady did such a good job that they were setting up so quick and easy that I mean, healing felt those 6 felt like they were the easiest ones to heal all year. Like he that just felt good. And I had never been three before, and so when there was a 3-8 and a 3-7 in front of us, I'm like, well, if we can win fifth in the round, I'll be happy. And
Yeah.
when we're 3-5, I've lost my shit. And then
Man, that was awesome. I love that.
we we get out back, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I really couldn't believe it. And then they go 3-5, and I'm like, I'm sitting there and just in disbelief because I thought we were 3-6, and I'm like, the fastest run of my life still isn't fast enough to win. And so I go to step off and start taking my boots off, and Brady's like, "Let's go." And I'm like, "How fast were we?" And he goes, 3-5. And I'm like, "Oh," got back on, and we took the victory lap. But for a little while, I was extremely disappointed. I didn't think we won first, and I was like, I couldn't believe it, but it worked out.
Oh man, that's wild. So and I want to ask about your celebrations. Like we don't really see a lot of team ropers or timed event guys get as that animated after a great run. Like is that like I love seeing the emotion out of people and showing their excitement. I think it adds like another element of experience for the fans. But was that something have you always been that way, or is it just kind of that you're caught up in the moment and you're just wrapped up and feeling it?
Not really. I've never done anything like that. It was just
Really?
kind of just and yeah, usually, I mean, we just ride out and tell each other good job. But I don't know. I was just having fun, and maybe I don't know, just seeing all my family and in the stands and how excited they were, it just made me excited too, and I just let it out. I mean, at
Um,
that point, it didn't really matter because we were doing so good. I was just having fun then. So
oh, it was awesome to watch, man. The it kind of turned into a storyline within the storyline, just how it just injected an energy. Like the crowds were so good during those last three rounds, and then having some emotion in there and some drama and tension. It just all kind of came together, and it was so good to watch. And I mean, how like you mentioned your family, how great was it to share those moments with them? Like I know a lot of people don't get that opportunity, and them being so close and you having that much success your first finals. Like what was that like? Talk about that.
oh, it was awesome. I mean, we'd go back, and I'd the CFR gives us hotel rooms or whatever, but
Hmm.
all my family got this huge Airbnb, and I didn't even stay in the hotel room. I just went back and we stayed at the hotel or at the Airbnb with everybody, and just
Hmm.
we just hung out, and we'd go to the Buckle Deals at night and hang out there and party for a while, and then I'd wake up in the mornings, we'd just be with everybody. We'd go eat breakfast and just kind of hang out, and it was just something. It was just felt easy, like there was no pressure. You're just around the same people you're around every day, and so it was just fun being there. It was like a vacation for everybody, really.
Yeah, so like, yeah, what did you think of your first Canadian finals, kind of overall? Like, I mean, not many people go into their first finals and win the title, and I mean, like again, kind of touched on the sharing with family and friends part, but what were some of the highlights of like the overall experience at the CFR?
Just like the feeling of it, like they make it feel like it's, and I mean, it is a big deal, but they make it feel like it's the Canadian NFR. Like it is a big deal, and there's so many people, and like you go sign autographs, and people are wanting pictures and everything, and like you go there feeling like a nobody, like nobody's even gonna really know who you are. And then by the time you leave, like it feels like you actually feel like you're somebody. Like they do a great job of taking care of everybody and making it feel as real as they can for. And I don't know, it was a surreal feeling just to be up there, I thought.
So how did that help your confidence heading into the winter in 2024? Like, what you guys got to be kind of still riding that high of like, hey, we can game up here, and we're gonna continue to prove that it wasn't just a fluke in 2023.
Yeah, I mean it's helped my confidence a lot just because I don't know, I've never really been too confident of a person, really, I guess. Like, I mean, I always kind of thought like I rope good, but then when I get around everybody at the rodeos, I'm like, all right, I know all these guys rope way better than I do, so I have to make sure I'm on my game. And it's just made me settle down a little bit and realize like I'm gonna catch them when they turn. If I don't, there's gonna be more. And so it's helped me relax, but given me that self confidence that I didn't think I had before. Really.
Oh man, and you can see it in your open, man. Like you guys came back to Canada, like you said, these last couple of weekends. You just won Tabor and Coleman, and kind of reminded us all that the champs are here, and where you guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So what does that mean for 2024? Are you guys going to kind of follow the same game plan, or what's it look like, kind of heading into the season for you guys as we pick things up?
We're gonna go to all of them to Panoka, I think, and hopefully have pretty good to where we got a pretty good shot of getting in early to where we can venture off. We're gonna go down to the States more and kind of go to some more of the bigger rodeos down there and not spend as much time up in Canada, but I mean it's still up up there on the priority list. Like we're gonna dang sure we get the finals made before we really take off, I think. But I mean
Yeah.
Canada and I mean ultimately everybody says they want to make the NFR and that'd be huge, but I mean it just gotta see how it goes. We're just taking it one rodeo at a time and seeing what happens and if it keeps going good, great. If not, I mean it won't be the end of the world.
Well, and I mean, you guys got to take advantage of having the qualifications to get into all these big rodeos and stuff too. I mean, like the Cheyennes, Pendletons, all those ones. You got to do it while you can. And so, will you have you competed at Pendleton yet, or will this be the first year you've been able to enter it?
No, I've competed at it
Oh,
for
okay,
ever
okay.
since I was 18. I won it with Jason Stewart in
Oh,
2019.
what? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so
Sick. How cool was that
uh
to win your hometown rodeo? That's like and like one of the most iconic rodeos ever.
yeah, that was awesome. That was I celebrated there too, but
Dang.
I wasn't old enough to really celebrate, and so I had
Yeah,
to
fair
hang out
enough.
and I had to be the DD for my parents afterwards. But no, that was awesome. That was some that one might be the most like I don't even know how to say it, like closest one to me,
Yeah, no
like to my
doubt.
heart to win. But like Canada was obviously up there just because it paid so much more, and
Yeah.
you had to go rope through six of them and go against everybody after all year, and so they're both special, but just they just have different means to them.
So did you ball out a little bit after the CFR? You won some money? Did you do any kind of like a fun money purchase or what'd you do with your CFR
Uh,
winnings?
I, I bought a living quarters horse trailer, so I wouldn't have
Oh,
to
let's
sleep on a
go.
bunker pole anymore, and a heel horse. And I spent all my finals money in about 2 months.
Well, that's a good things to invest in with the amount of time you spend on the road, and obviously horsepower is the key. So talk a bit about your horses. How important are they? Like, who are you riding? What's kind of your rotation? Are you just riding the new one you bought, or are you still kind of rotating through a few?
No, I ride the Sorrel Blaze Face I rode last year pretty much
Okay.
everywhere. I think he's 10 this year. Uh, and so he's not too old. And I got a gray I rode last year at a few, and he's maybe 7. And then this new one I bought is 6. And so I got 3 pretty young ones that I'm pretty confident in. I feel confident going anywhere in riding. So
Mhm.
that helps me out a lot.
What are some of the big rodeos in the US that you have never competed at yet that you're looking forward to taking a crack at?
Um, hmm. I don't know. All the big winter rodeos were fun this year, like San Antonio and Houston and everywhere. And
Yeah, no
we
doubt.
got we got to go to all those this year, and that was fun. And I'd never been before. But I my rookie year in 21, I went semi hard, and we went to quite a few pretty big ones,
Oh, okay.
like most of them. And so there's not one really big one that just stands out that I haven't gone
Mhm.
to. But uh, I mean, all the big ones that just pay so good, Pendleton, Ellensburg, Cheyenne, all those. I mean, you look forward to them just because that could change your year if you do good at them. So just kind of
Awesome.
depends.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up for me, unless there's anything else you want to chat about that I didn't kind of like may have glanced over or didn't get into.
Uh,
Or we
not
got it
really, not that
covered.
I know of.
Do you have any
Not that I can.
got any funny stories about you and your traveling partner or anything that sticks out? Or not, it's not even really a traveling partner, your team roping partner, anything funny or kind of some funny moments from even the past year that you guys kind of that makes you look back and laugh or
Uh,
did he come up and celebrate with you after you guys won? That's one thing I do want to know.
he did he?
Yeah, did you guys party pretty hard after you won the CFR?
No, he's Brady. He doesn't do nothing. He's an old soul. He just goes, puts his horse up, takes his kids to bed, and goes to bed. And I'm the healer of the group. You can definitely tell I'm the healer. He's all business, and I'm not.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you made up for his slack at the after
Yeah,
party.
yeah, yeah. I make sure because I know I'm partying for 2, so I make sure I do a good job of it usually.
What was your favorite rodeo cabaret you hit up last year in Canada?
Oh, I don't know. I really didn't go to a lot of them. I can't remember which one I went to. One of them was huge. You had to pay to get into it, and the beer garden lines were so long and so many people. But I don't know. They're all pretty wild if you get into them, but I try to stay away from them if I
Yeah,
can.
some trouble can happen in there if the guy's not too careful. Right on, man. Cool. Well, yeah, that kind of wraps things up for me. And again, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys kind of tear it up on the road this summer, and I'll be sure to say hi when I see you at some of these rodeos this summer.
Awesome. Yes, sir. Thanks again.
Right on. Thanks, Calgary. This has been episode 12 of the short round. We'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back to the short round. Thanks once again to Calgary Smith for joining us this week. And we have another special guest joining us for the back half of the show here. We got the general manager, fearless leader himself, Denny Phipps. Thanks, man, for hopping on. We've got some exciting stuff happening in the Pro Rodeo Canada world.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rolling going lately, and it's pretty exciting. That's for darn sure.
So one of these things that's happening and kind of a news update for everybody is the SMS Pro Tour just re-upped for 3 years. So going in through, I guess 3 years from now is what, 2027? 26. So we got 3 more seasons of the SMS Pro Tour, and they've become a huge partner in everything we do here, and we're so proud to have them back. So talk a bit about that partnership and how this extension came to be.
SMS, you want to know what the funny thing about it is? The original agreement with SMS was signed 5 or 6 days before I started my job. My wife and I, Nevada, we were heading for a vacation before I started this job, and I got an email when I landed telling me that this was a done deal. SMS, when I got my very first day on the job, it was one of my first phone calls. So we've really been together right from my first day. The 2022 season went amazingly well. We came back for 2023. It grew a little bit. One of the big things about the SMS tour is getting to that $8,000 threshold, puts you onto that tour, that threshold, which then there's supports back to these rodeos through the SMS tour, which is really exciting. And it's been a really successful program that's grown over the years. And you can just notice how we've gone from 10 tour rodeos up to, I think we've got 16 or 17 this year. And I don't think without partners like SMS we'd have that. But on the flip side of that, SMS has exposure across Western Canada, Armstrong, all the way out to Morris, all the way up north, Dawson Creek, down to Lethbridge. So it really does cover all corners of Western Canada, and it's really exciting. So it gets their brand into the places where people are utilizing. But it is really exciting to me because I think there's a lot of shared corporate identity, if you will. Like this pro rodeo, the Cowboys, our association as a whole, we're founded on hard work, resiliency, integrity. And I see a lot of those things mirrored in a company like SMS. You don't get into that world without willing to get your hands dirty and hard work. So I think it's been a really great fit that way. The people that they're trying to reach are our fans, and our fans are the people that would go work in those jobs quite often. So it's been a really great fit that way. And they've just been a great company to work with. This last year, I actually went up to Nevada, and I went up to their Christmas gala. So they've treated, and I got up and I live auctioned off 2 belt buckles for charity, and I've never auctioned anything in my life, but they've really embraced it. The CEO of the company bought one of the buckles, and I think we raised $7,000 for the stolery.
Awesome.
But yeah, so and he was pretty darn proud to strap that belt buckle onto his pants. So it's pretty cool to see stuff like that, because at the end of the day, I think those shared values makes that partnership really, really a great fit.
And they're an engaged partner. I know they're always have a presence at all these rodeos. They have people there representing SMS, and they're always having a good time, and they're willing to spread the word and just be part of what Pro Rodeo Canada is. And I think that really speaks to, again, that alignment of the values. And it's going to be really exciting to have them on again for 3 years. And I'm sure it's going to continue to grow. And I'm sure the committees appreciate it, and the Cowboys and Cowgirls appreciate it. So thanks for your hard work there. And another big piece of news that came up this week is the CFR payout has been announced for the 50th edition of the Canadian Finals Rodeo. And Clay threw together some questions he has for you to kind of give everybody the breakdown of that release.
Absolutely. Happy to talk about it.
So yeah, I know coming with the big announcement there just before the CFR last year that things were moving to Edmonton and there was going to be one last round. I know the talk was that the money would stay the same, but we're happy to see from this release that it's actually getting up a little bit there.
Yeah, I make no bones about it. We're not lighting the world on fire with the increase by any stretch of the imagination. But I had a lot of people that came up to me that, oh, you're losing a round, you're going to lose that round worth of value. And we really wanted to make sure that it showed that no, like it's not a big increase, but you're now competing for a little bit more money, but on one less animal. So it really was important to me to show that. And I know it was important to the board to show that as well, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there, but the board really we knew what our number was going to be for quite some time, but the board really wanted to wade through that, make sure we went through our budgets, made sure that we were being fiscally responsible, but then also going through and we looked at 5 or 6 different payout options. We looked at different weights of the average. We looked at different placing, how many holes are we going to pay? And the board looked at that pretty extensively. And at the end of the day, I'm excited to say, like, we're keeping the same structure. It's still going to pay time and a half in the average and still pay 5 holes in each round, 5 holes in the average. And it really does create that apples to apples comparison that people can see, yeah, like we are competing for more money each day. And it's very, very clearly, there's no smoke and mirrors.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I can remember that the one year I competed there at the CFR was, I think, the last year that they only paid 4 holes, right? And I think that 5 placings is kind of a sweet spot, and having that little bit of extra in the average definitely it adds to the drama on that last perf, right? Where it's not just a go round's worth, it's that extra and everything like that. And one of the big things I noticed here, just from the dollars on the breakdown of the payout, is those novice and steer ride contestants are getting a little bit more for this coming year as well. So,
yeah, we like the CPRA. We obviously value youth development. To me, it's one of the most unique things about the CFR. It's one of the most unique things about Canadian Pro Rodeo is we do integrate the youth in the rough stock end. It's where you have those mentors around you. In the timed events, they go to practice pens all the time and they're side by side with the Curtis Cassidys of the world and the Scott Gunthners of the world. In the rough stock, there's a lot of practice pens you're not seeing a Zeke Thurston in or something like that. It does happen, no question about it. But at these pro rodeos, to be able to set your saddle down beside a world champion like Zeke Thurston, you just learn so much through osmosis that it's really important. And I think it's one of the really unique and endearing parts of our sport. And I know with the CFR being on TV south of the line on the Cowboy Channel last year, I got a lot of people that were saying, oh, what is this novice thing? I'm like, well, we've been doing this for years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really exciting to see that exposure. People are like, this is really, really cool. And they, like, people get to come up and they get to compete. And I know for myself, and I know I can probably speak for you, Clay, coming up through the novice ranks. And I spent a lot of time doing double entries. I entered the open and the novice for 2, maybe 3 years regularly. But I was competing, but I used it as a stepping stone. I used it as growth because I wanted to make sure that I wanted to be where iron sharpens iron, but I didn't want to jump off and go where I wasn't ready to. So it allowed me to go at my own pace, and I was able to have success right when I hit the ground running when I did take out my full card.
So and
sure.
Even if you look back at the past champions of the novice events, like how many great Canadian champions and great Cowboys and have come through that, like that's something to be said just for that developmental side of it, and then just having that opportunity to compete alongside your heroes and building great Cowboys and people that have gone on to successful careers. I mean, may not be in the rough stock events, could be in others too. So it's a pretty cool thing to have that available. Yeah, exactly.
Colton Schmidt, you have Mark Nugent. Just off the top of my head, those are the first two that pop up in my head, but I know there's countless other examples, but those two
Oh,
are the
yeah.
first two that pop up in my where I'm coming from. But yeah, you've got like Zeke Thurston, Danton Birch. I think he won both the steer riding and the novice bareback riding. I don't think Zeke won the novice saddlebrock riding. I can't remember off the top of my head,
Mhm.
He
but
did once, I think. It wasn't his last year, but I do think he did pull it out there once.
but yeah, so like you you look at the list of Canadian champions in the novice and the steer riding, but then step back and look at the people that aren't Canadian champions in the novice and steer riding, and it's it's a pretty substantial list as well.
Oh, for
So
sure.
looking at this release again, Danny, are we going to see the breakaway roping in all the performances of the CFR this year?
We are going to see the breakaway roping in all the performances this year. The CPRA is out because breakaway roping is outside of this agreement. The CPRA is designated some funds towards breakaway roping specifically. They will still be raising some of their funds, but as we move towards having it fully ingrained within the CFR agreement, this is kind of the first step. Okay, so they're going to be in all 12, they're going to be in all performances, 12 girls. The CPRA is putting some money, they're still raising some money, but it's kind of that first step. We needed to walk before we could run. I think we've done the crawling stage and now we're at the walking stage, and hopefully in the near future we're at the running stage with it.
Which it's pretty cool though, because that kind of makes the CFR and Canadian Pro Rodeo the first to incorporate the breakaway roping fully into their major finals, which is kind of another way that Canadian Pro Rodeos had led the way, like with incorporating the instant replay last year, and now we got breakaway roping all 5 days at the all 5 performances at the CFR in Edmonton this fall.
It's, you want to know what, it's one of the things I'm really excited about, and we've got 60 events, 65 events or whatever it is. We've got a little bit more ability to be innovative, I think, than when you have like the PRC. They've got over 700 events, and finding something that's a fit for everybody is sometimes difficult. Whereas we can do some of these things. Last year, I think we were at 80 or 85% of the rodeos had breakaway in some way, shape, or form. And Lakota Bird, I just talked with her yesterday or the day before, and she said it's increased. I don't know what percentage we're at last. But they requested previously to make the Canadian finals. It was on a percentage of the rodeos, and I think last year it was 13 or 12 or 13 for their rodeo count. And the girls said, no, we want it to be 15, even if we're not at all the rodeos.
Mm-hmm.
We want it to be 15 because we want to get out there and rodeo with everybody else. Everybody was well over 15 anyways,
Mm-hmm.
but so it was basically it was just it wasn't going to matter, but that was something that Lakota, she's like, no, this is something we want. If the
Mm-hmm.
bareback riding and the steer wrestling take 15, we want to be 15 to get there too.
That's awesome. Clay, do you have anything else on the CFR front?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say again, I think in that breakaway rope, and it's one of those great success stories we've seen in these past few years to see how it's taken off and just how tough of an event it is. I don't think there really is an ability for a girl to get there without getting to less than 15 rodeos, like you say. I think that you're not worried about just making your rodeos and then getting to the finals. It's cutthroat to the end, and they're just roping real well.
It is. It's amazing. It's amazing how often you're seeing this happen in 1:8, 1:9, 2 seconds flat. They're of the utmost professionalism. These girls rope amazing. I can't speak to the caliber of horsewomen they are. It's just pleasure to watch them work with these horses. Some of them are growing them themselves. Some of them are just come in and rope, but it's one of the cool things. We actually, and a lot of people don't know this, in 2019, there was a couple of rodeos that had breakaway, and then the CPRA was going to start incorporating it a little more in 2020 before the season was canceled. So we had to put a park on it for a year, but that was something that had started coming in when I was still on the board of directors in 2019, early 2020. I can't remember exactly. So to see where it's come from then to now has just been amazing, and they are a great addition to pro rodeo, and I'm excited to see the growth continue.
Oh, another thing we sort of touched on, Denny, was the Cowboy Channel. They've become a big part of what we do and giving access to fans who may not be at the events or be able to attend the events. But now we have about half or over half the Canadian rodeos are available to watch on the Cowboy Channel or Cowboy Channel Plus. Talk a bit about how that relationship has developed over the past year and just how great it is to give people that access to our Canadian content.
Well, it's really exciting. And before I say anything, like Flow Sports was such a great partner. I was there on the board of directors when we started there, and I was there and then I was in this role when they transferred our rights over to the Cowboy Channel. And they were great partners, and they knew that for us to continue to grow, that the Cowboy Channel was probably where we needed to be. And so I appreciate everything they did, and I appreciate because they could have just held our rights. They owned it, and they were quite successful with it, but they wanted to be a great partner and help us grow as well. So moving to the Cowboy Channel, and it's been great working with Patrick and Carly, and Tyler Hayes is my point person down there, and he's fantastic. Him and I work a lot together, and we talk quite a bit. But they've been very accommodating. They've been very appreciative of us. I know that like in a typical rodeo, they're transferring encoders back and forth and shipping them. Up here, I've built an encoder transport, and I ask favors, and secretaries will grab them, or stock contractors or announcers. But I've built a map, and I've plotted out where an encoder is going to be when and how we're going to get it there. And so that's kind of one of the things I do is I make sure that the encoders get to where they need to be when they need to be there, and going from there. But yeah, we're going to have just over half of the rodeos are going to be either streamed or on the Cowboy Channel this year. It's probably going to be 70 to 80 performances before the CFR, so probably closer to 90 when you count in the CFR and the Maple Leaf Circuit Finals. So if you're a fan of rodeo and you've got the Cowboy Channel app, you can watch a Canadian rodeo almost every single weekend, and you can follow along whether it's Logan Bonnet or Dawson Dom or Coy Robbins, you can follow them along across the trail. And it's really exciting because I think the more access people have to see them, they can see their progression through the year. And I know last year there was a lot of people following some of the races we had, especially watching Edmonton when we had some pretty tight races to make the Canadian finals. And it's just really fun to see that ability for people to follow along. I know myself, I was at Medicine Hat a couple weeks ago, and I was sitting beside Dwayne Ashbacker. He was watching Cole up in Dawson Creek while I was sitting beside him. So that's the other thing is, as someone who grew up rodeoing and now who has kids, obviously they're not in rodeo yet, but watching parents be able to watch their kids compete throughout the season is something that I never thought I would see something like that affected me the way that it does. But when you've got a kid that's in hockey and lacrosse and all that sort of stuff, that sometimes it's really interesting to see it grow.
Well, and another thing that's kind of had a resurgence, I guess you could say, in the last 6 months for us is the reemergence of the Canadian Rodeo News. And I'm sure you can speak to this too, Clay, being a writer for it. Like that's turned into a huge piece where people can find great content and stay up to date with what's going on. And it's become a huge, even just an advertising piece for the association. And I want to, it's kind of off the board from what we discussed, we're going to talk about, but I just wanted you to kind of touch on the Canadian Rodeo News and how that's become such a great tool for us.
So I can speak to the Canadian Rodeo News. It was when I started this job, it was one of the first things that I pitched is we need to do a better job telling our stories. We've got fantastic writers in this industry, Clay included. Barb Paulson, our media person, she was working on the magazine before it went away. And credit to Canadian Cowboy Country, they were fantastic partners for a number of years, but we were limited in the space we had there. And with the way that the digital lens is, it's been, I knew that this was something that we could do, and we could do it at a reasonable cost, because I used to work in the printing industry, and printing is just not a reasonable cost, let alone postage. But we still get to get out there. We weren't telling our stories. We weren't telling the stories of the committees or the bucking horses or stuff like that when we were limited to web releases or news releases, and then a handful of pages in the Canadian Cowboy Country. So with this launch of the digital Canadian Rodeo News late last summer, I think we're on issue 7 or 8 or 6 or 7 now. The first issue, I think we had 2,500 views or something like that, and the March issue is almost to 17,000 views. So
Wow.
it's been really see it grow. It's been really cool to see people gravitate to it. And just I know that me personally, I love reading stories about what's going on in our industry. And if I love it, I'm sure there's other people in our industry that do as well. And the really cool thing about it is I said there's almost 17,000 views in March, but that was on almost 6,500 different viewers. So it's not people just going back and back again and again and again and again, but it's actually getting out to a widespread margin, which with only 6 months, I hope that it continues to grow. But I've been so heartened by how many times people have come up to me and said, that was such a great story on the yaks. Or I loved reading that story about bucking horse XYZ, or hearing about Connie from Dawson Creek, just some stories that off the top of my head. And obviously sometimes like when you're telling stories and we're in our slow time in Canada, we get to tell stories about yaks because when we're in the middle of July, we're probably not going to have time to tell some of those cool stories because we've got so many rodeos on the go and so many things
Yeah.
happening in our association. So it's just that ability to get out and I have to like this podcast. This Wacey, Wacey, you started this podcast and it's been so well received, and just getting out there and telling the stories within the CPRA and the people within the CPRA has been, whether it's through the magazine or through the podcast or through our social media channels or through website, or just doing other media, telling the stories. I think it's been really important. And I think we have so many great stories, and now we've got people that can get out there and tell those stories.
Well, it's great,
For
man.
sure.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Clay. Sorry.
Yeah. I think again, like you say, it's kind of three things together there where you've got the increase in rodeo access to the actual events, the publicity through the digital media as well as the podcast, where it's really awesome to see rodeo able to catch up to some of those other sports. I know for myself personally, I've always followed lots of other sports and things like that, and it's just really cool for I think the average person to be able to do that. And yeah, it's really interesting how many people you wouldn't expect to be listening or watching the Cowboy Channel and following rodeo these days, just of your average people you run into in town. So
Well, and it's been really, really exciting. And as you said, my previous job, I worked in publishing for almost 4 years. And I met with lots of publishers and lots of photographers, stuff like that. And one of the things that stuck with me is that I was at a conference one time, and it was a photographer teaching about photography and like for print photography. And he said, my job as a journalist, he absolutely was. He was a photojournalist. My job as a journalist is to put the viewer into a moment that they themselves would never have the opportunity to get into. And that has been the thing that I've been proudest about all these different things, whether it's the magazine or the social media or the stuff on the website or the podcast, is the ability to put people into situations that they themselves, lots of them would never get to be there. They might not get to have a conversation with Calgary Smith. They might not get to hear stories from Katie Lucas. They might not get to talk about a yak. But so put those people into a situation that they're never going to be in, because that's the best kind of journalism. That's those things that really hit people and humanize. We've got stars in our sport like Zeke Thurston, and a lot of he's bigger than life. But at the end of the day, he's also just a hell of a good guy. That's a great family man. And so being able to tell some of those stories has been really, really heartening to me. And seeing the people on the team tell those stories, it's just been great. It's such a great team that I'm proud to be a part of. And I don't do any of the heavy lifting on that media stuff, if any of the lifting, but it sure is great to have great people doing it.
Well, and a few other things that are kind of keeping the train rolling for us here at Pro Rodeo Canada is the amount of new membership is one thing, and something else we talked about on the phone, Denny, is we're on pace to set a record for our total payout for the year. Just so talk a bit about both those things and kind of what's contributing to that success.
You want to know what? I think rodeo has never been more popular, And I think obviously the Cowboy Channel has been a part of that, but also just especially post things being shut down, people grew to appreciate live events and they grew to appreciate those things that they can associate with. And a cowboy and a cowgirl, they're down home people. They're just as likely to pull over and help you with a flat tire, whether they know you or they don't know you. And I think people really respect that. Obviously, there's the Yellowstone factor, and in the media lens, it's never been more popular to be a cowboy. There's boot barns on Rodeo Drive right now. People might be coming out in boots that are 3 sizes too small, but they're coming out in boots. And I've always said, right from early in my career, if not before my career, I was pretty lucky. My dad was the president of the CCA, the Canadian Cowboys Association, for 18 years. I grew up in that association, but I grew up kind of around the rodeo politics, if you will. And I feel like I went to a master's course on that. But is when I was at the Oilers game last night, almost every player was wearing a jersey, or every fan was wearing a jersey. Almost none of those players ever played in the NHL, but they're wearing the jersey nonetheless. I look at the same as a cowboy hat or a pair of boots. If someone's coming to a rodeo and they're wearing a cowboy hat or a pair of boots, that's no different than them putting on a Connor McDavid jersey and going to a hockey game. They just want to feel a part of it and they want to be a part of it, and we should support that however we can, because at the end of the day, bringing them in is the best thing we can do. It's the most exposure, and they don't know what a good hat or a bad hat is, or a comfortable pair of boots versus an uncomfortable pair of boots. If you go to almost any rodeo across North America, it will take you 5 minutes to find someone who's in a pair of boots that is giving them blisters and they wanted to take them off 3 hours ago, but god darn it, they want to feel like they're a part of this thing. And like those people, like, this sport has that effect on people.
Mm-hmm.
They make people want to be a part of it, even if it's uncomfortable at times. A good pair of boots is going to be comfortable, people. So keep trying them on until you find a good pair of boots. But like, there's very few things that makes me prouder just in the role that I'm in, but just being part of this industry, is when you go to an event, whether it's a small town high school rodeo or the CFR, there's people that are dressed. I just want to feel like I'm a part of this. I'm going to put on my hat once a year and I'm going to come out and I'm going to be a part of it. And for someone to go out and spend the money for something they're going to wear once a year, that is pretty substantial for rodeo cowboys, cowgirls, to have that effect on someone, and someone want to be the part of that.
Oh, it's pretty cool, and that was a perfect summary of it, Denny. I think just it's never been more popular, and things are happening. More money's being paid out to contestants. More people want to get involved, and it's more fans are getting attracted to the sport. I think we're in a really, really good place right now across the board when it comes to everything that we got going on in pro rodeo and in Canada and in the US. It's in a really great spot. So it's exciting to be part of. And I mean, that about does it for me for questions, Clay. I don't know if you have anything else you want to finish up on, or I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, no, I think, like you say, it's a positive feedback loop when we draw people in. I think the average contestant might try to judge. I think in this Western life, you're trying to judge someone for how much of a cowboy they are. But at the end of the day, without those people that love the sport just because they love it, not because they're in it day to day, that's what drives it. And just the same way as with any of the other sports and things. And we can't have that stigma about, oh, you're not a cowboy, you're anything like that, because again, when they buy that pair of boots, that money will generally find its way back into the industry somehow, and we're all better for it. So it's and again, I think when you compare a ticket to the Oilers game versus a ticket to your average rodeo, I think it's something that a lot of families and people can afford and get
100%.
Right. I think we're in an industry that's still very family friendly and everything like that. So it's always good to keep that end of things going as well.
You are never. We are very family friendly. I think that's important, but you're never going to find professional athletes as accessible as cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to find better athletes, in my opinion. You think about someone who is a world class saddle bronc rider and world class bull rider like Stetson Wright. There's not many. That's Deion Sanders territory,
Yeah.
and Bo Jackson territory, and it like, and he should be revered in the same regard. But like going down what Clay just said, I think like the great Hadley Barrett said it best. I think the rookie is just as important as the champion. I think the livestock is just as important as the cowboy. And I think if we didn't have the fence, none of it would mean anything. Like, I think you can't sum it up better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, that's the best part of my job is I get to be a part of bringing professional rodeo of any sort, to all these people and seeing the growth of the sport and seeing the fans and going to a rodeo and seeing people being really, really genuinely enjoying the day. Most of the time when we're at a rodeo, that's one of the best days of the year for that community. So we get to see the communities on their best day, which is just a lot of fun.
Well, Denny, we all really appreciate what you do here at the CPRA, and we really thank you for taking the time to sit down with us and kind of give us a state of the nation for pro rodeo right now. And yeah, just keep up the good work, and we'll catch up on the road this summer.
Absolutely, sounds great. Thanks, Wacey. Thanks, Clay.
Right on. This has been the 12th episode of the Short Round Podcast. I'm Wacey Anderson, joined by co-host Clay Creasy, and we will catch you guys in the next episode very soon.